Hi, my name's Ramon. I'm an alcoholic. Really grateful to be here. Thank you, Karthik, for the invitation and everyone behind the scenes doing service. It's really good to be at a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And yeah, my sobriety date is September 28th of 2017. I have a sponsor. My home group is Bronx Big Book Study. We meet every night at 9 p.m. That's probably morning for you. I believe you're at the end of your day. I'm in sort of in the middle of my day. I'm here in Boston in the East Coast of the States. And yeah, I have a sponsor. I get to sponsor people today, and I've gone through the 12 steps. And the topic that I wanted to focus on today is willingness. And willingness is something that we hear all the time. But I hope I can share some stuff that will that's makes it more tangible. Because I think I heard that word for a long time and I didn't really understand it. You could translate that, Karthik. That'd be
థ్యాంక్
great.
యూ థ్యాంక్ ఆయన పేరు రెమాన్ అండి. ఆయన ఏంటంటే ఒక త్రాగబోతు. ఆయనకు స్పాన్సర్ ఉన్నాడు. హోమ్ గ్రూప్ వచ్చి బిగ్ బుక్ స్టడీ గ్రూప్. ఎవ్రీడే నైట్ వాళ్ళ టైంలో 9కి స్టార్ట్ అవుతుంది. మనకి పొద్దున్న అదొక 6 7 ఉంటుంది. సో ఆయన హోమ్ గ్రూప్ అది. ఆయన సొబ్రైటీ డేట్ వచ్చి సెప్టెంబర్ 28, 2017. ఆయన స్పాన్సర్ చేస్తారు, స్పాన్సీలు ఉన్నారు. ఇంకోటి ఏమన్నారు అంటే ఇప్పుడు నాకు ఆల్మోస్ట్ డే మధ్యలో, మీరేమో డే ఎండ్. ఆయన ఉన్నది ఆల్మోస్ట్ 11:30. ఇంకోటి ఈరోజు టాపిక్ విల్లింగ్నెస్ తీసుకున్నాను. చాలా ఇంటూ ఉంటాను విల్లింగ్నెస్ అని, అందుకనే దాని గురించి మాట్లాడదామని తీసుకున్నాను.
Yeah. Thank you, Karthik. And yeah, so I said, I got here in September 28th of 2017, but originally I came into the fellowship, into the program in August 11th of 1997. And I was in the program for 17 years, and I went back out after a long period of being sober. But how I see that sobriety today was that I was dry. I didn't work any of the steps in the middle. I never worked steps 4 through 9, which are the steps that are going to change me from the inside out. Because of this whole topic of willingness, I was unwilling to do something different. And I stayed the same. I stayed sick for a very long time, and I did a lot of service. I went to a lot of meetings. I drank a lot of coffee. I went to fellowship after, and but I did none of the work because I was unwilling to try something different. And that's a huge difference in my sobriety today, is that I'm willing to try something else. Like come here today to this meeting, which has a completely different format that I'm used to. New people that I don't really know, but that willingness to try something that I haven't done is so important to me on a daily basis. 7 years in, to the program, I have to continue to be willing to try new things. You can translate, Karthik.
యా, నేను ప్రోగ్రామ్కి 1997లోనే వచ్చాను. సుమారుగా 17 ఏళ్ళ తర్వాత మళ్ళీ రిలాక్స్ అయ్యాను. కాకపోతే నేను చెయ్యింది ఏంటంటే ఇష్టపడలేదు ప్రోగ్రామ్ చేయడం. మీటింగులు చేసామని, సర్వీస్ చేసేవాడిని, ఫెలోషిప్ చేసామని, కాఫీ తాగాను. అయితే ప్రోగ్రామ్ చేయటం 4 నుంచి 9వ సోపానం ఏదైతే ఉందో అది రెగ్యులర్గా ప్రాక్టీస్ చేసి నా లోపల నుంచి నాలో మార్పు రావటం అవ్వలేదు. సో అందుకనే మళ్ళీ నేను రిలాక్స్ చేశాను. ఈరోజు ఈ మీటింగ్ కొత్తది, అంటే నాకు ఎప్పుడు ఇలాంటి మీటింగ్ అటెండ్ అవ్వలేదు కదా, ట్రాన్స్లేట్ చేశాను. అయినా నేను వచ్చాను. ఆ కొత్తతనాన్ని ట్రై చేయటం అన్నది చాలా ముఖ్యమైన విషయం. ఆ ఇష్టత ఉండాలి రికవరీ కోసం కొత్త ట్రై చేయటం.
Thank you.
ఆ
So,
ఆ
a little bit of
ఇష్టత
a, a little.
నాకు అప్పుల్లో ఉండేది కాదు అని చెప్తాను.
Can you hear me?
ప్లీజ్
Okay. So, so a little bit about my story. I grew up in. I'm from Puerto Rico. I grew up in the Caribbean, and I'm one out of three kids, and I'm the one in the middle.
యూ కెన్ స్టార్ట్
And
టాకింగ్.
can you not hear me? So I am one. Oh, thank you. So I'm the one in the middle, and I grew up in a lot of way before I picked up a drink at 18. I didn't pick up a drink until I was 18. I was in a lot of fear growing up. I was really afraid of other kids. I was just really afraid of the world. Um, from my earliest experience of fear, I remember um, my mom dropping me off at kindergarten and holding on to the gates, to these iron gates, yelling for her to come back. And to me, that's my earliest memory of fear, that I wanted her so desperately to come back and rescue me or save me or hold me and tell me that everything would be okay. And I think that terror, um, I always felt separate, and so when I found alcohol at 18, it helped me to sort of breathe in a way. And it gave me this liquid courage to connect with others. But yeah, I feel that this separation that I was experiencing, from a very early age is at the root of of why alcohol seemed, when I found it, became a solution for me. You can translate, Carter.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. సో ఆయన 18 ఏళ్ళకే తాగుడు మొదలు పెట్టారు. ఇద్దరు పిల్లల మధ్యలో మంచి పిల్లలు ఉన్నారు. ఎప్పుడు కూడా కొంచెం జనాలతో కలవటం అది కష్టంగా ఉండేది, భయం ఎక్కువ ఉండేది. ఇంకా ఆయనకు గుర్తుంది, చిన్నప్పుడు ఎల్కేజీలో వాళ్ళ అమ్మగారు స్కూల్లో వదిలేళ్తుంటే ఎంతో ఏడిశారంట, నేను పెంచి తీసుకెళ్ళిపోయాను. ఎవరొకళ్ళు వచ్చి అలా రక్షిస్తారు అన్నట్టే బతికింది జీవితంతో. సో ఆల్కహాల్ ఏంటంటే ఇది కొంచెం సొల్యూషన్ గా పనిచేస్తుంది అని చెప్తున్నా. ప్లీజ్ గో హెడ్ రామ్.
Yeah, so for me growing up, we moved around a lot. By the time I was, in high school, I had gone to eight schools, and um, you know, every one of those schools I felt, always isolated, but very alone, depressed. I felt like I didn't belong. I was in the wrong family. I was in the wrong place. There was always this kind of feeling inside of me that felt, disconnected from the world. And I remember, I always like to say my first addiction was fantasy, because I would read for long periods of time, and um, and I would use it the same way that I used alcohol when I found alcohol and drugs and all that other stuff. Um, because growing up, I would just pick up a book. I would read for like 6 hours. I would stop, go eat something, and then I would go back to my room and isolate and read some more. And it was because what reading does was what alcohol then came to do for me, which is like it allowed me to enter a different space and escape, which is what I wanted to. I was so painfully uncomfortable in my body that I needed a quick exit, and through reading when I was growing up, and um also excelling, like being like trying to be the best because at school, because then I could get that validation, that love, that I was so desperately seeking all my life. You can translate Karthik.
సో చిన్నప్పుడు ఈయన అలా ఇబ్బందులు మానసిక ఇబ్బందులు పడుతుంటే ఆల్కహాల్ ఒక పరిష్కారంలో కనిపించింది. చిన్నప్పటి నుంచి కూడా ఈయనకి అంటే ఆల్కహాల్ లేకముందు ఏం చేసేవారు ఈయన, ఎక్కువ ఫ్యాంటసీలో ఉండేవారు, అంటే ఊహల్లో ఎక్కువ పుస్తకాలు చదివారు. ఏదో ఒకటి పుస్తకాలు చదువుతూ ఉండేవారు. దాని తర్వాత మళ్ళీగా రీడింగ్ లో నేను మర్చిపోయారు. దాని తర్వాత మెల్లిగా ఆల్కహాల్ వచ్చాక అదొక పరిష్కారంలో అనిపించి మిగతా వాళ్ళతో కలవటం తేలికైంది. సో ఆల్కహాల్ ముందు ప్రాబ్లం ఏమో ఊహలోనే పుస్తకాలు. ఈ ప్రపంచం నుంచి బయటకు వెళ్ళడానికి పుస్తకాల్లో మునిగి తెలియదు. అది కాకుండా స్కూల్లో బాగా చదివేయటం, అందరూ సభాష అంటారు కదా, ఫస్ట్ రాగానే ఆ పక్కన వాళ్ళు సభాష ఇంపార్టెంట్. ఏంటి ప్లీజ్ గో.
Yeah, so I mean, so the way that I see it now, and understand, before I picked up that drink at 18, I was sitting in a lot of just fear, self-doubt, not feeling good enough, not feeling smart enough. A lot of people kind of talk about it like I didn't get the manual to life. But it was, everything was confusing to me. And so when I picked up a drink at 18, and I don't know what my first drink was, but I knew immediately that I wanted more. And for me, I hated the taste of alcohol, but I love the effect. I love the effect produced by alcohol. I never drank for the taste, but I remember when I put alcohol into my body, like I wanted, I love liquor. I never drank wine or mixed drinks. I wanted a quick exit. I wanted like straight vodka, sambuca, Jaeger, something that was gonna, rum was big in my culture. And, those were the kind of drinks where like it's burning in my throat. And immediately I have this sense of, I just immediately, it's a quick exit. It's a quick exit out of my body. And that's what, immediately I wanted the next one and the next one and the next one. And that's what I focused on, when I was 18. I was in school. I was in a great school. And after one semester, I dropped out of that. And, I see it now, which is years later. But I see that even at that, in the beginning of my drinking, I started to organize my life around my drinking, that everything that I was doing revolved around my drinking career, my drinking life, and how I was gonna get it, who I was gonna hang out with, where I was gonna work. And just sort of like the way that drinking sort of starts, or my relationship to alcohol started to like define my life in a very specific way, because I was chasing that relief from everything that I was feeling, which I didn't have a solution for. But my solution at that point, and for a very long time, was alcohol and all its other forms. Can translate.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. సో చిన్నప్పుడు మీకు ఇందాక చెప్పినట్టు ఆ భయాలు, వయంజాలు, వీటితో బాధపడుతుంది. నేను ఎక్కువ వైన్ ఇలాంటివి తాగేవాడిని కాదండి, విస్కీ లేకపోతే వోడ్కా స్ట్రైట్, ఎందుకంటే ఇమీడియట్ గా ఈ బాడీ నుంచి బయటకు వెళ్ళిపోయి ఈ అదే అస్తవ్యస్తత ఏదైతే ఉందో ఆ బుర్రలో, దాని నుంచి బయటకు వెళ్ళాలి. అది కూడా తొందరగా వెళ్ళాలి. కాలేజ్కి వెళ్ళాను, సెమిస్టర్లో ఆపేసాను కాలేజీ. ఇంకా చిన్నప్పటి నుంచి చూస్తున్నా నా జీవితం అంతా తాగుడు చుట్టూరు ప్లాన్ చేశా. తాగుడు ఎక్కడ దొరుకుద్ది, తాగుడు ఎలా తాగాలి, ఎవరితో తాగాలి, మొత్తం అంతా అలాగే ఉండేది. నా ప్లానింగ్ ఎప్పుడు తాగుడు చుట్టూరునే ఉండేది. నేను నా కాలేజ్ కానీ, నా స్నేహితులు కానీ అన్నీ కూడా తాగుడు చుట్టూరునే ఉండేది. ఈ మెయిన్ గా ఈ డిస్కంఫర్ట్ అంటే ఆ, ఏంటంటే కొంచెం అస్తవ్యస్తత నుంచి ఎలాగా బయటికి రావాలి, ఎంత తొందరగా బయటికి రావాలి అన్నది నా ప్రధాన ధ్యేయం. దానికి తాగుడు వాడు. ప్లీజ్ గో.
Yeah, so when I was 19, around this time period when I was first using, like I said, I dropped out of two colleges. Um, I, disappointed my parents basically, without any regard, because that's what we do. We don't, we have a complete disregard of the people that love us around us. And, my whole life became about, I started working in clubs in New York where I was living. And, I pretty much dropped out of society just to build a life around drinking and drugging. And, um, the thing that I didn't understand that I understand now is that physically, I was having, I had a physical allergy that when I put something into my body, meaning when I put alcohol into my body or any other substance, I don't react like other people and that I want more. And I didn't understand that. I didn't understand why my brother and sister, who grew up in the same household and, also moved around a lot and went to different schools, and, why they could have, drink or party and go home. I didn't understand that. Even, the first time going back to the first time I drank, I had a job where I started at 4 in the afternoon. That's when my shift started. I would work from 4 to midnight, and I was calling out of my job because I wanted to go to an after hours. And after hours was you left the club and you wanted to go to another party at somebody's house to continue the party. And that's the way that I drank from the beginning. I was never um, a normal drinker. I was never a moderate drinker. I always drank till I couldn't walk anymore, till I couldn't, like, my body couldn't take it anymore. I was always a binge user from the beginning and always scheming, calling into work and saying like, oh, I can't make it. This is at the beginning of my drinking, you know. So needless to say, it didn't go, that was the beginning of a cycle that lasted until I was 22 when I first got sober. You can translate Karthik.
సో ఎప్పుడు కూడా ఈయన ఏంటంటే ఇతరుల గురించి ఆలోచించేవారు కాదు. ఈయనకి ఇంకా అన్న చెల్లెళ్ళు ఉన్నారు. వాళ్ళు ఇదే ఇంట్లో పెరిగారు. వాళ్ళకి ఇలాంటి జీవితమే ఉండింది చిన్నప్పుడు. వాళ్ళు ఆ ఊరు ఈ ఊరు ఎన్ని ఊర్లు షిఫ్ట్ అవుతూ పెరిగాను అంట. తర్వాత వాళ్ళు బాగానే ఉన్నారు కాలేజీలకి వెళ్ళి. నా ప్రాబ్లం ఏంటంటే నాకు ఎలర్జీ. ఒక్కసారి చుక్కబడిందంటే వెళ్ళిపోతుంది. అయితే నాకు మటుకు తాగుడు ప్రాబ్లం. ఆ ప్రాబ్లము ఏంటంటే పక్కన వాళ్ళు ఏమనుకుంటారు, మా తల్లిదండ్రులు ఏమనుకుంటారు, ఎలాంటి పట్టింపు ఉండదు కదా. నాకేం కావాలో నేను చేసాను, వెళ్ళిపోయాను తాగడానికి. నా మొదట్లోనే నేను ఏంటంటే ఈ స్కీములు వేయటం, ఉద్యోగానికి రావట్లేదు అని చెప్పడానికి ఏదో కహాని చెప్పడం, అబద్ధాలు ఆడటం, దొంగతనాలు చేయటం, నేను ఎప్పుడు నా త్రాగుడు నా మానక ద్రవ్యాల గురించి ఆలోచిస్తుండే అవి ఎలా పొందాలి, ఇంకా మిగతా ఏం పట్టించుకునే ఉండదు. సో నేను 22 ఏళ్ళకి ఇలా అబద్ధాలు, ఉద్యోగాలు మానేయడం, సో చాలా తొందరగా నేను అయిపోయాను. నేను మొదటిసారి సోబర్ అయింది అప్పుడే 22 ఏళ్ళకి. ప్లీజ్ గో హెడ్.
Yeah, so first got to Alcoholics Anonymous at 22, it was not by accident, it was like my life had really spiraled pretty quickly, and there was, it was totally unmanageable externally, like I was not employable, my skin was green, I was, you know, underweight. I was in that cycle that we find ourselves in. For me, it was like it was 4 days of binging around the clock, drinking and drugging, and then I would crash out when my body couldn't do it anymore for 2 days. Eat, have the guilt, shame, and remorse the morning after. Call my therapist, a cry for help, and and then when I felt a little bit better, start again. And I just found myself in that cycle, that I couldn't get out of. And one I I was in that hopeless place, and for some reason, there I remember actually at 22, which is I want to share this because it's just coming up for me in this moment, but it was the same feeling that happened to me 7 years ago, where it was like um I know that this was God back then too. It was like there was this, I remember being in a nightclub, and I think it was like 3,000 people in this space. And I remember feeling so alone in that space. And there was a voice that said, go home. And I jumped in a car and went home. And that was the beginning of that journey, and when I was 22. And I didn't, I moved to a different state where had a friend, um and when I got to that place, I didn't I didn't know anybody there except the person I was living with. And but I started drinking from the bottle at home, and then I would get to the bar and I would have shots. And one night I met somebody there who was sober and invited me to local meetings. And I know that that was not me, that was God placing somebody in my path that could guide me in that moment. And that sort of launched me into an Alcoholics Anonymous. And I had a little exposure from somebody that was in group therapy of Alcoholics Anonymous earlier. That earlier, but I wasn't ready. And that's the whole thing about willingness. If I'm not willing, like I can't give you the willingness to do, the willingness has to come from within for me. And in that moment, when somebody, God placed somebody in my path, and and I was willing to go to my first meetings, when I was 22, and that sort of started me on my first journey into um, into sobriety. You can translate.
సో నేను ఇలాగే తాగుతూ వెళ్తున్నాను. లాస్ట్ ఏంటంటే చర్మం అంతా పసుపు రంగులోకి వచ్చేస్తుంది, ఆరోగ్యంగా లేను. మామూలుగా తాగుబోతులకి ఏమవుతుందో, ఎవరు నన్ను ఉద్యోగంలో పెట్టుకోవడానికి రెడీగా లేరు. ఇంకా నాకు 22 ఏళ్ళు. అలాగే ఒకసారి అప్పుడులోనే ఇలా జరిగింది, మొన్న 7 ఏళ్ళ ముందు ఇదే జరిగింది. దేవుడు ఎలా పనిచేస్తాడు. నేను ఇలాగ ఒకళ్ళ ఇంట్లో ఉండి అక్కడ ఒక ఫుల్ బాటిల్, దాని తర్వాత బార్కి వెళ్ళి మళ్ళీ తాగుతాం. ఇలా నడుస్తుంది జీవితం. వెళ్తుంటే ఓ రోజు ఒక సోబర్ వ్యక్తి కలిసింది నాకు. ఆ వ్యక్తిని దేవుడే పెట్టాడు అనుకుంటాను నా జీవితం. ఆయన నన్ను మీటింగ్లకి తీసుకెళ్ళాడు. సో నేను మొదటిసారి ఆల్కహాలిక్స్ అనానమస్ కి అలా రావటం జరిగింది అని అంటాను. ప్లీజ్ గో హెడ్.
Yeah, so I started going to meetings. I started counting days, doing I remember I was really scared of getting a sponsor, and somebody introduced themselves and they said that they would be my interim sponsor. And so I started that. I started calling them. They said, call me in the morning and call me at night. And I started to follow directions in that way. And life started getting good. That's the thing. When I'm not drinking, my life starts getting good and I can start showing up to things and I get healthier. And the delusion, right? The lies that I tell myself is that, oh, okay, like I'm getting better. I'm able to show up to work. I actually started working. So I had a job finally. I have some new friends in the program. And so I'm connecting with people. And but then at 90 days, I meet somebody and all of a sudden I'm in a relationship, that I probably shouldn't be in because I don't really know myself yet. But I was so desperate for that love, that affection, that connection that I was like, I wasn't going to listen to the suggestions. And it was like my way. It was my will. Like, I need to be in this. And I continue to go to meetings. I continue to do the things, as I said, I was sober for double-digit sobriety. But I like to mention this because it's like all of a sudden I started to find all these things that I thought that would make me okay, feel okay externally, to give me that validation. And relationships was a big thing for me because I needed to be saved. I needed to be loved. I needed to be validated in a certain way for me to be okay. So without the drink, like you take the drink out, but if I'm not okay with myself through this beautiful relationship I have today with God, then I'm going to seek it from you. And if you, like, even though you might not be available for a relationship, I'm still going to willfully try to get whatever I can from you. Because I don't know how to be in relationships. I don't know how to have relationships. The only relationship that I've had is with alcohol, right? And alcohol shaped every relationship that I had. And every relationship that I had prior to coming to Alcoholics Anonymous was transactional. But if I haven't seen that through an inventory, right? If I've never done a fourth step and I'm just blindly going into a relationship at 3 months without knowing myself, thinking that that's going to fix me. And that's the delusion, right? Without a solution, I'm still in delusion. I'm still believing the lies that have always determined the course of my life. You can translate, Karthik.
సో మీటింగ్లకు వస్తున్నాను, మీటింగ్లు చేస్తున్నాను. 90 days 90 మీటింగ్స్ ఉన్నాయి. స్పాన్సర్ ఏమో పొద్దున్న సాయంకాలం ఫోన్ చేయమన్నారు, క్వశ్చన్ లేదు, చేస్తున్నాను. ఎన్ని చెప్పినట్టు చేస్తుంటే బాగా అవుతుంది. ఒకసారి 90 రోజులు అవగానే ఇమీడియట్ గా ఒక మానవ సంబంధంలోకి వెళ్ళాను. గర్ల్ ఫ్రెండ్ నాకు కావాలి మానవ సంబంధం, ఎందుకంటే నాకు లోపల నుంచి బాగలేదు. మానవ సంబంధం లేకపోయినా ఏదో విధంగా దాన్ని మీ నుంచి అయినా తీసుకోవడానికి ప్రయత్నిస్తాం. మీరు అవైలబుల్గా లేకపోయినా బిజీగా ఉంది, నేను ఏదో విధంగా తీసుకోవడానికి ప్రయత్నిస్తాను. ఎందుకంటే లోపల నేను సొల్యూషన్ చేయట్లేదు. లోపల ఇంకా అలాగే ఖాళీగా ఉంది. అలా చేయనంత కాలం నేను ఒక డెల్యూజన్లో ఉన్నట్టే, పరిష్కారంలో లేకపోతే నేను ఒక భ్రమలో ఉన్నట్టే. బయట నుంచి ఏదో విధంగా అతికిద్దామని చూస్తుంటాడు, అది అతుక్తుంది. సో ఆ భ్రమ ఉన్నట్టే. సో నేను రెడీగా లేనప్పుడు ఆ సంబంధానికి. సో అలాంటి పరిస్థితుల్లో నేను మానవ సంబంధంలో దిగాను. ప్రోగ్రామ్ చెయ్యట్లేదు, మీటింగ్లు చేస్తాను. సో ఇలా అవుతుంది జీవితం. ప్లీజ్ గో హెడ్.
Yeah, so just to pick up where I left, during early sobriety in that time period, I'm going to a meeting a day, um, but I'm doing Ramon's program. I'm basically, again, I checked the box. I went to a meeting, I have, some fellowship, I call my sponsor, and then I'm like, going back to my drug of choice now, which is a relationship. And, what I realized years later, maybe like 4 years ago, when I actually did a proper inventory, this time around, was that, when I got into that relationship, that person told me that they weren't available, but in so many words, but I still willfully wanted that relationship. So I stayed in it for probably 18 months, and I remember like sharing about it in meetings, and people would say, have you looked at the steps? And I would just brush it off, and I would get a resentment. And, but, just, you know, to give you a, kind of a bird's eye view of what that double-digit sobriety looked like, right? So, so I got out of that relationship at 18 months, and I got into another relationship a month later that lasted 5 years. After that 5 year, I went into a 2 year relationship, and after that 2 year relationship, I went into another 5 year relationship. And to me, that was my solution, one of my solutions. Another solution that kind of ran parallel to that was success, right? If I make enough money, right? If I'm making enough money, if I have this degree, and the thing is, like, again, like, once I'm separated from alcohol and all its other forms, I can accomplish some things. So, I got an opportunity to go back to school and graduate from a great program and do really well. But, then when I got out of that school and I moved back to New York, and I'm working for a great company, but I'm not doing what in my mind I'm supposed to be doing, right? To be okay. And, it's like, it's that in the book, it talks about, like, that restless, irritable, and discontent, right? That discontent feeling of, like, I get the thing that I think I want, that I think is going to make me okay, and it's still not enough. I still feel empty. And that's kind of like the emptiness that I felt all throughout my sobriety. Without a spiritual solution, I was seeking all these things externally: relationships, success, and I was making great money, living in a great place, but none of those things, what I know today is that none of those things treat what I'm suffering from, which is alcoholism. Karthik, you can translate.
సో మీటింగ్లు చేస్తున్నా, ఇలాగా ఏంటంటే మానవ సంబంధాల్లోకి వెళ్తున్నా. మొదటి రిలేషన్ సంవత్సరంన్నర 2 ఏళ్ళు ఉండింది. మీటింగ్లో షేర్ చేస్తున్నా, అందరూ చెప్తున్నారు నాకు, ఒకసారి స్టెప్స్ సంగతి చూడొచ్చు కదా, ఒకసారి స్టెప్స్ సంగతి చూడొచ్చు. అది మాట వినట్లేదు. అలాగే దాని తర్వాత 5 ఏళ్ళ రిలేషన్షిప్ లోకి వెళ్ళాను. ఇది అయిపోయాక దాని తర్వాత ఇంకోసారి 2 ఏళ్ళు, ఇంకోటి 2 ఏళ్ళు, ఇంకోటి 5 ఏళ్ళు. సో అదొక సొల్యూషన్ కింద తీసుకున్నాను. వైద్య నుంచి మానవ సంబంధాలు, ముఖ్యంగా గర్ల్ ఫ్రెండ్ ప్రేమ నన్ను ఆ లోపడున్న వెలుతుని నింపుద్దాను. నింపలేదు, ఆ వెలుతు అలాగే ఉండిపోయింది. ఇంకోటి ఏంటంటే, నేను పరిష్కారం కింద తీసుకుంది పేరు, ప్రఖ్యాతులు, డబ్బు, సక్సెస్. బాగా సక్సెస్ అవ్వాలి నేను అని దాన్ని కూడా తీసుకుంది. అది వచ్చింది కాకపోతే ఆ వెలుగు మటుకు నిండలేదు, లోపల ఉన్న వెలుగు. సో మానవ సంబంధాలు, డబ్బు రెండు నాకు ఆ వెలుగుని నింపలేదు అని చెప్తున్నా. ప్లీజ్ గో హెడ్.
So I describe all of this to describe what it's like to live, woefully. Um, this, I'm seeking all these things externally because because I'm suffering inside, and I don't have a solution. And I'll just describe, like during that, what my I like to talk sometimes about this, like what my work life looked like, because I'm making 6-figure salary, and I'm great at what I do, but I'm doing it at the expense of others, in the workplace. Now, as a salesperson, I would be working with 7 other salespeople in my team, but I didn't have a collaborative spirit. It wasn't a team. It was like me, like I need to make these numbers because I need to get validated for me to be okay. I need to be number one. And, I needed to be helping 4 clients. Like, even though you might not have a client that you're assisting, like, there's no way that I'm sharing it with you. And that's the kind of way that I was moving through the world. That's how I was showing up. And when I'm showing up like that, I know I'm showing up that way. And so it's eating me up inside, and I wasn't feeling good about myself treating other people that way. And because I'm not feeling good about myself, what do I have to do to treat that? Right? So I have to spend money. I have to go out and spend so I can feel better, or I act out sexually, or there's other addictions, right? Because there's other things that I think are gonna make me feel better. And then I'm doing all those things, they're not working, and I'm sitting in that guilt, shame, and remorse. And I'm doing it over and over and over without a drink, right? Going to meetings, right? This is going to meetings without a spiritual solution. This is how I'm showing up to life, and, I'm in a relationship that I don't want to be in, right? A relationship out of convenience. And this is what my life looks like, at double-digit sobriety, without just willfully moving through life because I think I need these things to be okay. But because I've never done any of the work, right? All those steps in the middle, I've never been really willing to do an inventory. I've never really been even willing to think about the possibility of this power, of a different power source than Ramon. Then I'm stuck, basically. I'm stuck without a solution. Karthik, you can translate.
సో ఇలాగే వెళ్తున్నాను జీవితం నుంచి. మొత్తం అంతా రెమౌంట్ నడుపుతున్నాడు జీవితం. పవర్ ఏం లేదు. జాబ్ లో కూడా బాగా సక్సెస్ వచ్చింది. కాకపోతే ఎలా వచ్చింది? ఇతరులు తొక్కొచ్చింది. నేనే మొత్తం అందరు క్లయింట్స్ తోటి మాట్లాడాను. సేల్స్ లో ఉండేవాను. 7 ఉండేవారు టీంలో. అది ఎప్పుడు అది టీమ్ లో ఉండేది కదా, నాకు నాకు అంటూ ఉండేవారు. నా దగ్గర 4 క్లయింట్లు నేను హ్యాండిల్ చేయాలి. ఒక్క క్లయింట్ కూడా పక్కనోడికి ఇవ్వను. ఎందుకంటే అబ్బో ఇస్తే అలాగా నేనే నెంబర్ 1. ఆ వ్యాలిడేషన్ కావాలి, నేను నెంబర్ 1. ఇలా రిలేషన్షిప్స్, పనిలోనేమో షబాషీలు, వీటి వెనకాలే వెళ్ళాను. డబుల్ డిజిట్ సోబరైటీ వచ్చింది అయినా లోపల ప్రోగ్రామ్ లేదు. లోపల వెళ్తే అలాగే. ఎందుకంటే బయట నేను వ్యాలిడేషన్, అదే బయట శబాషీలు, లేకపోతే వేరే వాటికి అంటే డబ్బులు ఖర్చు పెట్టడం, లేకపోతే సెక్స్, ఏదో ఒకటి ఉంటుంది డైవర్ట్ డైవర్ట్ అవడం. లోపల ఖాళీగా అంటే ఏదో దాంట్లోకి డైవర్ట్ చేస్తాడు. లోపల ప్రోగ్రామ్ లేకపోవడం. సో ఇలాగా డబుల్ డిజిట్ సోబరేటీలోకి వచ్చాను దాదాపుగా అని చెప్తుంది. ప్లీజ్ గో హెడ్ రమ్.
Yeah, and I think that I was, sitting in all of that for so long that it was like, like when you put the tea kettle on the stove and it just like it's boiling and it's ringing and needs to be taken off to quiet that noise. And I think for me, I got to that point where like I needed a solution for all that noise and by the noise I mean guilt, shame, and remorse that I was sitting in because of the way that I was living my life, and all the people that I was affecting through that behavior, which I was really blind to. But I want to read something from the doctor's opinion because this really helps me understand what I'm suffering from. So it says, and I'm going to read it in the first person. It says, I drink essentially because I like the effect produced by alcohol. And that's me. I love the effect produced. When I put something into my body, I want a quick exit. I spoke about that a little bit earlier. So the sensation is so elusive that while I admit it is injurious, I cannot, after a time, differentiate the true from the false. To me, my alcoholic life seems the only normal one. I am restless, irritable, and discontented. Right? So I'm restless. I'm unable to relax. I'm easily annoyed, irritable, and discontented, right? Never satisfied. Always, and that's where I was sitting in that state, like discontented, never satisfied. I had all the external things. But again, none of those things were treating what I was suffering from. And it goes on to say, unless I can again experience the sense of ease and comfort, right? So quieting that noise, alcohol gave me that ease and comfort, that false sense of well-being, right? That's what alcohol did, which comes at once by taking a few drinks which I see others taking with impunity, right? Other people don't have the consequence that I have. And for me, I had to start, this time around, I had to see that my step one, my step one experience shows me that physically, mentally, and spiritually, I'm not like other people, and I'm never going to be normal. And I have to understand that that's my truth today after 7 years, right? That physically, I don't react the same way that my brother and sister does to alcohol. I have a different reaction. When I put one in my body, there's no exit route. Mentally, I have a mind that knowing what I know, not only am I obsessing about drinking when it's not in my body, when I'm supposed to be on a sales floor, focused on work and being collaborative, I'm thinking about the next one or who I'm going to get it from. But mentally, I have a mind that tells me that, oh, a drink might be a good solution, knowing what I know. Karthik, you can translate.
థ్యాంక్ యూ. సో ఇందాక బిగ్ బుక్ నుంచి వాక్యాలు చదివారండి, స్నేహితులు కూడా పెట్టారు. ఏమంటుందంటే బేసిక్గా నేను ఎందుకు తాగుతానంటే నాకు ఆ ఫీలింగ్ కావాలి, దీని నుంచి బయటకు వెళ్ళిపోయే ఫీలింగ్, దేని నుంచి సడన్ నాలో ఉన్న అస్వస్థత నుంచి బయటకు వెళ్ళిపోవాలి, ఆ రిలాక్స్ అవడానికి అవుతా. తాగుడు లేకపోతే ఏంటంటే మళ్ళీ రెస్ట్లెస్, అంటే అసహనంగా, లేకపోతే ఇరిటబుల్, చిరాగ్గా, నిలకడ లేకుండా, అసంతృప్తి. బయట ఉండాల్సిన ఎన్ని ఉన్నాయి నా దగ్గర. డబ్బులు ఉన్నాయి, గర్ల్ ఫ్రెండ్ ఉంది, లోపల మటుకు అసంతృప్తి, మంచి ఉద్యోగం కూడా, ఎన్ని ఉన్నా అప్పుడు అసంతృప్తి. సో అందుకనే మళ్ళీ love అవుతాను. కాకపోతే ఇతరుని చూస్తాను, ఇతరులు మామూలుగా తాకుంటే వెళ్ళిపోతారు. కాకపోతే నాకు అలర్జీ కూడా ఉందిగా, నేను అలా రాగలను. మంచికి చెడుకి తేడా లేదు. సో ప్రెషర్ కుక్కర్లో ప్రెషర్ కుక్కర్ ని మళ్ళీ బిల్లు చేస్తాను, మళ్ళీ పేలుద్ది. గో హెడ్.
Okay, good. Yeah, and I just want to continue really quickly with the reading, and then it says, after I succumbed to the desire again, just what happened to me. I succumbed to that desire again. And as so many do, the phenomenon of craving develops, and I pass through the well-known stages of a cycle, meaning the spree. I find myself back in this cycle, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. And that was me for 18 months, over and over. Like, I'm not going to do it again. Not going to do it again. But the cycle was in motion because I have a physical reaction to alcohol, which is abnormal. Other people, normal drinkers, don't have this reaction. They can go home. I might have a job interview at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm going to go out for 2 drinks the night before, and then all of a sudden it's 11 a.m. the next day, and I'm like, how am I going to get to this interview? And I'm scheming and I'm and that's the kind of drinker I am, right? So it says this cycle, right? This cycle is repeated over and over, and unless I can experience that entire psychic change, there is very little hope of my recovery, right? And so, this is why for me, step one, doesn't get greater than one. I have to really have a deep first step experience to understand that, I'm hopeless. Without a solution, I will drink again. And that's my experience, that I did drink again without a spiritual solution. So, going back to this first step, physically, mentally, and the third part, right? We admitted we were powerless, and our lives have become unmanageable. And I never understood the unmanageability. I thought like the unmanageability was not showing up to holidays and being late and disappointing people and dropping out of things and quitting jobs, and all that stuff is unmanageable. That's the unmanageability externally of my life. But the unmanageability that that they're talking about there is what I was feeling at 7, right? That separateness, I'm not good enough, that self-doubt, that self-pity, that without a drink, and without a spiritual solution, I'm still feeling that noise, right? And if I don't have a spiritual solution for that noise in my head, I'm going to seek all these other things externally, which I sought for a very long time. The only thing is, and the cautionary tale that I hope I'm being able to share with you today, is that I attempted to treat that noise with all these external things, and none of those things work. And so it's telling us there that unless I can experience an entire psychic change, and what psychic, I never understood what that word meant, but what they're saying there is that it's a personality change, right? Emotions, ideas, and attitudes, right? Which is the based on fear, right? The way that I've been living my life. If I can have a psychic change, but I have to be willing to do some work. And the work lies in these steps in the middle, right? Karthik, you can translate. That's kind of a lot, actually.
సో 18 నెలలు తాగానండి రిలాక్స్. ప్రతిరోజు అనుకున్నాను మళ్ళీ చేయను, మళ్ళీ చేయను, మళ్ళీ చేయను. మళ్ళీ చేశాను. ఇంటర్వ్యూకి వెళ్ళాలి, ఇంటర్వ్యూకి వెళ్ళలేను, తాగేసి ఉన్నాను. ఏం చెప్పాలి? సో మళ్ళీ అంతా మొదటికి వచ్చి రోజు అనుకున్నాను మళ్ళీ చేయను, అనుకుంటే మళ్ళీ చేశాను. ఇది ఇలాగ రిపీట్ అవుతూనే ఉంటుంది. నాకు సైకిక్ చేంజ్ వస్తుంది, అంటే పూర్తిగా మానసిక పరివర్తన రావాలి. అంటే ఏంటి? నాలో ఆలోచన విధానాలు మారాలి. ఒక ఉన్నత శక్తి మారుస్తుంది. నేను అంటే అన్మేనేజబిలిటీ కనిపించేది బయటికి, ఏంటంటే ఎవరిని పట్టించుకోపోతాం, పార్టీలకి లేటుకి వెళ్తాం, అన్ని బయటికి. అయితే నిజమైన అస్తవ్యస్తత ఏంటంటే నాకు 7 ఏళ్ల వయసులో నేను బయట ప్రపంచం నుంచి డిస్కనెక్ట్ అయిపోయిన భావన ఏదైతే ఉందో అది నా మీద. లోపడుండే వెలుగు, దాని పరిణామాలు బయటకు కనిపిస్తాయి. అయితే ఆ లోపడుండే వెలుగు నా అన్నం. అది దీని నుంచి పోయేదాకా నేను ఏంటి ఆ, అలా కంటిన్యూగా రిలాక్స్ అవుతూనే ఉన్నాను 18 నెలలు. ఆ మొదటి సోపానం అనుభవం అలా జరగాల్సి వచ్చింది, చాలా డీప్గా. మొదటి సోపానం అనుభవం అలా జరగాల్సి వచ్చింది. ఈ అస్తవ్యస్తత యొక్క అనుభవం, ఈ త్రాగుడి యొక్క అనుభవం, నా త్రాగుబోతాను అని అంటుంది. ప్లీజ్ గో హెడ్.
Yeah, so in the last few minutes, I just want to say that, like the most important thing for me today is to know that I'm an alcoholic and that physically, mentally, and spiritually, I'm not like other people. And for me, that was terrifying because it was in the beginning, because it was like, oh my God, I'm not normal. But that's great news for us, because I get what Alcoholics Anonymous offers me is the possibility to plug into a different power source than me, right? So if I don't have power, which is what step one confirms to me, right after I've gone through this first step experience, I don't have power physically, mentally. I have a mind that lies to me about the next one, or that I can continue to drink like a normal person. And spiritually, I don't, I don't, other people don't hold on to resentments the same way that I do. Other people are not quick to anger like I am. Like there's all these things that, the separateness, and when I start to see these three things, that I'm not normal, and that I don't have any power, then I can plug into a different power source, which is what is being offered to me, right? In step two, right? Willing to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. That implies that I'm insane without a solution. And the story that I shared, I hope it came through today, was that the insanity of how I was living my life without a spiritual solution, dry, without a relationship with this power. And so what step two allows me to do is possibility, right? Am I willing to believe that this power, whatever it is to you, and that's what I love about Alcoholics Anonymous, that it's not the God that I grew up with, right? Or whatever you want to call it. You get to customize this relationship with this power. Through this process, you get to tap into this power that's not me, and it's possibility. Because on my own, the best that I could do relying on self looked like the story that I just told you, and it was so limiting. Like it was so limiting my experience in life, because relying on self, I can't pull life off successfully, right? I can't be in relation with you. I create this separation based usually on fear, a lot of fear, because you're not going to accept me. You're not going to love me the way I think you need to love me for me to be okay. You're not valuing me the way that I think I need to be valued. All these things that I'm creating in my mind, the other person's not even thinking about that. So again, the willingness to believe that this power can take me beyond where I am currently in every area of my life. Karthik, you can translate.
Yeah. So ఈ పవర్ లేకపోవటం, ఈ పవర్ తో ఒక రిలేషన్షిప్ లేకపోవటం, అది నా ప్రాబ్లం. ఈ పవర్ నువ్వు చిన్నప్పుడు దేవుడు అవ్వక్కర్లేదు, ఏదన్నా అవ్వదు, దాంతో ఒక సంబంధం ఏర్పరచుకోవాలి. అది బ్యూటీ. ఏలో ఏ పవర్ అయినా అవ్వచ్చు. ఆ పవర్ తోటి రిలేషన్షిప్ ఏర్పరచుకుని ఆ పవర్ దాంతో వెళ్ళాలి. రేమాన్ ఎలా నడిపాడు విన్నారు కదా జీవితం. దానికంటే ఎంతో ఉన్నతంగా నడపచ్చు, ఎంతో హాయిగా ఉండదు. రేమన్ నడిపింది పని చేయలే. దానికి రెండో సోపానంలో నాకు పిచ్చి ఉన్నది అర్థమైపోయి ఉంటుంది. నా జీవితం ఎలా నడిపాను చూస్తున్నాను. నేను ఎలాంటి రిలేషన్షిప్స్ బిల్డ్ చేయలేను, అసలు జీవితమే బిల్డ్ చేయలేను. ఎందుకంటే నాకు భయాలు. నేను భయంతో నడుపుతా జీవితాన్ని. నేను నడపాల్సింది ఒక ఉన్నత శక్తితో. I'm sorry. Did I go on mute? Could you guys hear me?
You went on mute just like 20 seconds ago.
Okay. సో ఈ ఉన్నత శక్తితోటి పెంచాలి. నా ఇది నా రెండో సోపానం చూస్తే అర్థమైపోద్ది. నాకు నిజంగానే పిచ్చి. నా కథ విన్నారు కదా మీరు. ప్రేమ నడిపితే పిచ్చే జీవితం. అందుకనే నాకు ఇష్టత ఉండాలి. ఈ పవర్ ఎక్కడ తీసుకెళ్తే అక్కడికి వెళ్ళడానికి, పవర్ ఎక్కడికి నడిపిస్తే అక్కడికి నడవడానికి. 4 నుంచి 9 ఆ సోపానాలు చేయడానికి ఉండాలి నాకు ఆ ఇష్టత. ఆ ఇష్టత ఉంటేనే నేను ముందుకు సాగగలుగుతాను అని చెప్తున్నాను. ప్లీజ్ గో హెడ్.
Yeah, so just in the final few minutes here, I just want to say thank you for the invitation today. And yeah, I just wanted to bring it current. I just was on the phone with 2 friends of mine who recently relapsed, and we were talking about what happened, right? And what happened is what usually happens, right? Or the stuff that we don't talk about, the stuff that we're sitting on with that guilt, shame, and remorse, which is what I described that I was sitting on for a long time, is the stuff that ultimately creates the unmanageability and the noise in my head that then I want relief from. And then I seek it in the form that I know, right, that I think is going to still work for me. And that's the insanity of this disease. The idea that I have a mind that still tells me that that a drink or any other substance is going to fix what I'm suffering from. And the topic of willingness is always front and center for me, because it's like honesty, willingness, and open-mindedness. Those are the 3 essential things that we have to do on a daily basis. I don't have to figure anything out, but if I do those things, I know that this power can meet those things. And so the willingness to do something that I've never done in my life, which is go through the steps so that I can have a different experience than the experience that I've already had. I just can't emphasize how essential that is to kind of set aside what I think I know about this process so that I can actually have an experience that's not based on what I think I know. So just having that willingness to, again, do the steps that sit in the middle, right? Because that's the good news. I'll just close with this, that, again, if step one tells me that I don't have power, that's great news. Because that means that I can access power in the rest if I'm willing to go through the rest of the work. And I just have to be willing. This is a lifelong this is a daily practice. But I have to be willing to uncover, discover, discard, right? What's not working for me, I can give it over to this power, whatever you want to call it, and have it removed. I don't get to do the removal. I don't have that power. So if you're new, welcome to a new way of life. Welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous. And if you're not so new and you're sitting in the rooms like I was for a very long time, get somebody to guide you. I realized today that I still need today somebody with a flashlight, which I call my sponsor, but I needed it back then. So get somebody with a flashlight that can illuminate this path going forward. And again, Karthik and everyone doing service, thank you so much for the invitation. And I look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thank you, Ramon. సో ఆయన ఏం చెప్తున్నారంటే ఇష్టత అంటే విల్లింగ్నెస్, నిజాయితీ, ఆనెస్ట్, ఓపెన్ మైండ్ అంటే వ్యతిరేక భావాలు లేకుండా ఉండదు. ఈ మూడు కూడా చాలా ఇంపార్టెంట్. ముఖ్యంగా ఇష్టత. నాకు అప్పుడు లేదు ఇష్టత స్టెప్స్ చేయాలి. ఈరోజు ఇష్టత వచ్చింది. ప్రోగ్రామ్ అంతా అన్కవర్, డిస్కవర్, డిస్కర్డ్ అంటే ముందు విప్పి చూసుకోవాలి, ఏముందో కనిపెట్టాలి, దాన్ని తీసి బయటపడాలి. ఆ డిస్కార్డ్ అన్నది నేను చేయలేను, బయటపడేది. దానికి ఒక ఉన్నత శక్తి ఉండాలి నిత్యం. అలాగే నిత్యం కూడా నా ఇన్వెంటరీ మీద ఒక టార్చ్ చేసేవాడు ఉండాలి. ఆయనే స్పాన్సర్. ఆ రోజు కావాలి, ఈ రోజు కావాలి, ప్రతిరోజు ఇష్టం ఉంది అలా ఉండడం. ఓ టార్చ్ బేరర్కి ఉంచుకోవడానికి నా జీవితంలో నాకు ఇష్టం ఉంది. అందుకనే ఏ స్టెప్ చేయాలని, ప్రోగ్రామ్ చేయాలని ఇష్టత చాలా ముఖ్యమైన అంశం. అందుకనే దాన్ని టాపిక్ కింద ఎంచుకున్నాను. థ్యాంక్ యూ చెప్తున్నారండి చాలా. మన మీటింగ్కి ఇన్వైట్ చేసినందుకు ఇక్కడితోటి రికార్డింగ్ ఆపుదాం. యాక్చువల్లీ ఇది సెషన్ రికార్డింగ్ పెట్టమండి,